you guys were talking about no trades a moment ago. If I had to pick one thing that destroyed this era of Leaf hockey, it would be no trades, no trade clauses.
Yeah.
Okay. And like Kyle Dubas gave David Kampf a limited no move clause. Like every single player on the Leafs, OEL, Riley, Nylander, and obviously Matthews, the list goes on. And I agree with what you said, Commie. Like there's only a handful of guys in the world that deserve full no move.
Clearing the crease. Oh. Clearing the crease. Aye, aye,
Welcome back to the Clearing the Crease podcast, powered by Ozune. He is the Calder Trophy winner, the Razor, Andrew Raycroft, and he is the Stanley Cup winner, Mike Commodore. You know him affectionately as Commie. I'm Cebulski. We got a lot to get into this week. Just a quick reminder, if you're enjoying the show and the content that we bring you between the podcast, the add-ons through social, be sure to mash that like button or subscribe. Leave us a 5-star review on Apple or Spotify. Make sure you are following along, whether you're subscribed to YouTube or following along on Instagram, X, TikTok, or wherever else you are tuning in from. We were just talking about like people repackaging our content now. Like we're popping up everywhere, Razor. Like we're starting to go viral, man. We're starting to blow up here.
We are, and that's thanks to everybody out there. And imitation is the best form of flattery, right? So go ahead and steal our shit. Just give us a little bit of credit and hit the like button, I guess. Now,
the one thing that people cannot replace or imitate is the one secret weapon, big red-headed monster, Commie. Like every week, there's somebody who stops me somewhere on the street and a hockey arena that just wants to relate to a story that you share. More recently, a few days ago, I run into a hockey parent who tells me he was in Russia when you were there for the World Hockey Championship and talking about the Cosmo Hotel. And he said everything Commie's talking about tracks.
Yeah, you know what? I'm glad you guys ran into each other. And you mentioned it before we started recording. Once you said that, I literally do remember meeting some people there that were there for like, I know it was like Ringette or like a different hockey tournament. And they were like, oh, the World Championships are on. And I remember meeting him in the hotel and looking at him and being like, what the hell are you doing at the Hotel Cosmo? It's 3:00 in the afternoon and the food's terrible. And there's a behind us and a karaoke strip joint bar, and they're with their wives. They're like, we didn't know. I go, you know what? Fair enough. I'm like, you guys should find a different hotel though. But yes, no, it is funny because it popped into my mind. I do remember meeting some people and it just worked out great. They're like, well, this is awesome. We can come to some games. And, you know, it's not like the games were very well attended, but wasn't like it was, you know, this wasn't the gold medal game at US Canada. So you could get some tickets for just a couple rubles, I'm sure. So it worked out well, I'm sure, for him.
Nevertheless, no, everything he couldn't stop about just the experience. And he was like, Commie painted that picture magnificently. Yeah. So everything you said.
He probably brought back some great memories for him. Probably just finally forgot. Him and his wife just finally forgot about the hotel.
I think he just paid off the divorce and now
he's on his
the old lady
just forgot. Sorry.
I just got out from underneath that story and now we got to relive it again.
Bringing that back. Come on. Thanks for nothing. Hey, look, we got a lot we want to get to. The dust is settled on the NHL trade deadline. A lot to kind of digest on that, but hey, we should hit the priorities. The fact that we continue to win. We continue to win on Saturday nights. That's back-to-back weeks that you got paid if you've been listening to us on our Clearing the Crease Saturday night special. We hit again this past Saturday, so why not go 3 for 3? The triple threat. Here we go. Who wants to get, you know what, Commie? You pulled the rabbit out of the hat. You were the shock and awe that had the big odds paying off. Both Razor and I were like, wow. But you called the Calgary Flames to knock off in the Commie Bowl the Flames over the Canes. So why don't you start the good times off for us?
Sure. You know what? I had a feeling, after the trade deadline, Craig Connor, we'll get into it later. Craig did a nice job. You know what? It's time to lose some games. The Flames will start winning. So I gambled on them, and sure enough, they pulled it off. This week, I am going to go with, usually I think anybody who's paid attention, we kind of focus a little bit, at least one game of the three. We always kind of look at back-to-backs and if there's travel and whatnot. I'm going to stick with that, but I'm going to reverse it up. The Kings are playing the Islanders on Friday, and then they're playing the Devils on Saturday night. Okay. I don't care how that Friday night game goes, but the Kings do. The Kings need to win. The Kings need some points. The Islanders do too. Somebody who doesn't really need points, and especially a few days from now, is the New Jersey Devils. They're cooked, so I'm going to take the LA Kings to go into Newark and pound the Devils.
I like it. I'm taking some serious chalk here, and I'm gonna just lean as hard as I possibly can into the Vegas Golden Knights, destroying the Chicago Blackhawks, basically for the same reason. Vegas hasn't come out of the break great. They didn't do anything. We're going to get to the deadline. They might be in my talk about what teams did and didn't do. Vegas didn't do anything. They're struggling. They're under 500 in their last 10, but I think that they turn it around against the Blackhawks. The perfect remedy on a Saturday night, Vegas over the Blackhawks.
Ooh, all right. So there we go. Leaning back. And you know what? Vegas has treated you well this season, Razors. So
yes.
I feel like that's not a bad well
I like
to
them
go
at
back
home
to once
times.
more. My Saturday night, you know what? I'm going to keep the good times going. I'm going to run it back with what worked for me last week. They have been scorching hot. They are flirting right now with the best record in the Eastern Conference. Oh, yeah. Are we getting to a point? And I actually, you know what? I'm going to hold that question. But I'm just going to say this. The Buffalo Sabres taking care of business against the Toronto Maple Leafs. And speaking of the Leafs, we're going to talk to Frank, the Illuminati, coming up in a little bit. But give me the Sabres to take care of the Leafs on Saturday night. So there's your triple threat action. Vegas, we've got the Sabres and Commie,
and the Kings.
LA Kings.
Yes, I love that Sabres pick too. They're gonna pound the Leafs. I'd put my rented condo on it. The Sabres are gonna waltz in there and steamroll them.
Does Ken Holland get like a royalty on this if you come through?
I'm not giving any more money to Ken Holland. Okay. I'll tell you that. No, Ken doesn't get any more cash from me.
Okay, let's dive in. The dust is settled. It's been a few days since the NHL trade deadline went down. And I wanted, what stood out for you guys? Razor, winner, loser. What was sort of your big takeaway from a deadline that felt a little underwhelming with moves? I mean, there were obviously some trades that kind of, oh wow, okay, but what stood out for you? Yeah,
it was really underwhelming. I worked it for a couple hours here in Boston. Bruins did nothing, zero. There was two kids that got traded from Providence to Lehigh Valley. I'm trying to put lipstick on that pig, as Biz was talking about the other day. That was brutal. So it was underwhelming. I would say the two teams that I was really thought that they would have to make a splash or do something is Vegas. They've been inevitable to do it. They got Rasmus Andersson early, but again, they've been struggling. Now, something's not right there. Something's just not right. And I thought they'd try and make a deal to make it better. They didn't. And then Carolina's the best team in the East, arguably. They're right there with Tampa. There doesn't seem to be a lot in the Metro. There doesn't seem to be a lot in the Eastern Conference like that they could get up against. And they didn't make a deal. They could have got just a big winger, somebody put on the second or third line, a little more size, maybe not as quick as the pace that they want to play, but just have something there, some meat there for the second or third round. And the fact they didn't do it has got to be disappointing to some of the guys there, just because it feels like they should be one of the favorites, and that hurts. So the lack of trades and then the lack of outing from those two teams was the big disappointment for me.
Commie, where do you want to go?
Yeah, you know what? I'll go. I agree with the Canes. What you guys just said there. Apparently, the analytics must not have added up. They Not time to
Computer
get
didn't spit it out.
Nope, didn't spit out the right result. Apparently, they're going to try going small.
What's
again.
ChatGPT telling us this week?
Jeez, that's scary.
You know what? I'll stick with the parts of the country that I know a little bit. Good for the Calgary Flames. We've been saying it all year.
Yeah.
Hey, it's time to. I've talked about it. We've all talked about it. Hey, this ain't the year. It's time to reload. It's time to. Now you have to get some luck, obviously, in the draft too. But it's time to kind of go, hopefully, a la Sharks a little bit. How they've been going so far the last couple of years, and get things rolling for that new arena in 2-3 years, whenever that is. So, yeah, they got rid of Uyghur, got rid of Kadri, got some picks and a couple of players or whatever. But it's good. Get those guys. And it's good for those guys, too. You know, Kadri back to Colorado. Yeah. Uyghur got a new, you know, if I'm Uyghur, I'm excited. Go out to Utah and see how that goes. So I'll go with that for Calgary. Disappointed. I mean, I wasn't so much disappointed. I think we're going to get into it, Seaball, and I don't want to. But I need some clarification on that Blues Parayko on exactly what happened there. If you want to roll into that next.
Well, as you know, the news comes out that there was a deal in place between Buffalo and St. Louis, and it was basically 24 hours that it sat where the hockey world waited for Parayko to say yay or nay, and ultimately exercised his right, which he had that in his contract to have the right of refusal, and says no. I think the issue is how does that story get out, right? If that's an agreement, that's obviously one side or the other. Now, is that the Blues trying to force some pressure to try to make some moves happen? Or is that the Sabres saying, hey, we got something cooking here? Whatever the case, that's a tough situation for Colton Parayko to be in. And I feel for him, Commie. I just think that the bigger picture here is that there's way too many freaking players in the National Hockey League that have no movement clauses. Like, it's one thing to give it to the tippy-top elite, but man, there's not enough guys in the league that fans are paying to see that have no movement clauses when you got a third of the league. Like, good for those guys to have them, but come on, man. Like, that's a bigger picture story to me.
I'll go first. I couldn't agree more. Seaball, first off with that Parayko thing, I was driving around, whatever day that was, listening to NHL radio, trying to catch Razor every once in a while. This time I got Nate Thompson. I'm driving around with no destination really in mind, just wandering around here in the desert. Parayko got traded. I'm like, oh, man, that's going to be a good blue line. And I think they weren't sure what was coming back, but they're like, done deal. They're talking about it. I'm like, oh, that's great. And then I didn't, my day goes on or whatever. Next day, I turn on NHL radio again. The trade didn't happen. I'm like, oh, he canceled it. To answer your first question, I would say that, my first guess would be that's the St. Louis Blues leaking it out the back door to put a little heat on Colton. Oh, you might say no. It's going to be tougher to say no if everybody thinks you're going to Buffalo. Yeah. He can look forward to getting booed in Buffalo for the foreseeable future, unless they win this year, then they won't care. But I totally agree. We were talking about this at the golf course with a couple of hockey guys a few days ago. I'll tell you what, if I'm ever when I start running an NHL team, I'll tell you what, unless your last name is McDavid or McKinnon or Crosby or McCarr, I tell you what, you want a no trade clause? I'm chopping your salary in half. Like they hand out, like you just said, everybody gets some kind of, no trade, no move, limited, no move. It's like, hey, to me, that's, you just handcuffing yourself, and I don't get it. I would like to think that if I was ever running a team, which obviously I never will be, but those things would be rare.
Yeah, well, they were so rare when we were around, right?
Yeah.
The salary cap, right? The salary cap changing and especially now the cap's going up, everyone can get more money. But 5 years ago, when the cap was even or it was going down and you didn't have any money, you had to incentivize all these deals, right?
Sure.
So that's what it was. And I think that's why the number's so high right now. I can see a scenario.
But Razor, this is going back 15 years. Like, even you were still playing, and guys, almost a third of the league had some variation.
No, not that many. No. It's pretty recent, Seaball. I think it was 18% in 2016. I saw a number on it. So again, that's probably still too high to your point. But the
Yep.
salary cap that you have to incentivize things. That's what GM started to use instead of giving the guys an extra $1 million. They're like, hey, you get to pick wherever you want. I don't care. I'll be fired by the next time I try and trade you anyway, right?
That's a good point.
That's
too.
a lot of guys
Yeah.
just don't care about that. But when it comes to the leak, it's it's funny because the good news is the what's interesting is like the good players, right? The really good players typically like get their bat. Parayko said "F you," like that leak came out, and he might have been thinking about doing it, and it was like, no, that leak comes out, I'm not moving off of this. I'm an Olympian, and I can do whatever I want. Mitch Marner last year, right? He did the same thing in Toronto. Carolina, it gets leaked out right away. Nope, not happening. I'm not going down with that. And I can imagine being that kind of a player too, where I might have been thinking about going, no problem. But as soon as that leak comes out, I'm assuming it's my team. I assume it's someone around my organization, and then I'm digging my heels in. So it's going to be fascinating to see how this plays out forward, because the other thing too, guys, you can't keep anything under wraps now with these stupid phones and the social media, and Elliot's in on every single deal, and the agents, there's 9 agents for every player, and these guys are cutting deals with all these reporters and the whole thing. So that's adding to it, but I can't imagine a scenario where this is going to go away. To your point, Seaball, there's a third of the guys with them, and a third of those just aren't ever going to turn them down or change them.
Let me throw this to both you guys, but does that create a different perspective of how people view? Now, you bring up an interesting point, right? Like if you feel like you're disrespected, man, like I've been a good soldier for this organization and you're leaking out a move for me, like screw you. I get that. But at the same time, if you're sitting there toiling in a team that is flirting with the potential of winning the draft lottery and one of the worst teams, and you are given a golden opportunity to go chase a Stanley Cup, you got a chance to go win a ring. You got a chance to go jump up to a penthouse suite with Buffalo, right? Like,
yeah.
And like, honestly, like, I do want to ask you guys at some point, like, do we need to start looking at Buffalo as a legitimate Stanley Cup contender? And what a move that would have been that they would have pulled off. But you got a guy who says no, and it says, I mean, you can chalk up, you're 32 years old. It's not like you're 52, right? Like, you know what? You got a chance to go win a ring, and it's, get a Stanley Cup, and it's like, you know what? I'm good with this. I am happy to ride out the last 6 weeks of the season for a loser. Well, and I want to use that Commie emphasis by saying playing for a loser instead of playing for a winner.
There's a few. Parayko's already got a cup, number one. He's been on Olympic teams. He doesn't, again, he deserves the right to pick where he wants to go. And I think there's lots of guys that don't. Only one team's winning the Stanley Cup. They really it's hard to pick anymore, especially with this cap now. So I think, if a guy doesn't want to move, that's his prerogative anytime for me. And I wouldn't, as a player, I'm not judging Parayko for not going, thinking that he doesn't care about a Stanley Cup. I just, he's not going because he wants to stay in. So, there's a million reasons for him to do that. One being 1,000 games and like just stuff like that.
Commie, you agree?
No, I agree. I mean, I see both sides. Hey, look, I'm imagining that Parayko probably, these guys do have personal lives. Maybe his wife is from St. Louis, kids in St. Louis. He's got things going on there. I get that side of it. He's never been anywhere else. So the thought of getting up and moving, and I would imagine that is a little bit daunting just in and of itself. But I do also kind of see the side of it too, where I wasn't a player like Parayko, but you said I get that side of it, and I also see like, well, you know what, these guys are leaking. F these guys, I'm out of here. I'm going to take my chances. But yeah, I guess at the end of the day, it comes down to the individual. I would like to think if it was me, and like this is just me, just from the hockey side, that I think I would go. And I know Buffalo's brand new, and as far as coming back in the playoffs, and they're playing great. And that game the other night was unbelievable.
Oh my God, that lightning game.
The Sabres are back. Yeah, they're playing great. But he has term on his deal too. I think Nate Thompson said he's got another 3 years, so you got to think about that too.
That's on a 6 week. That's 3 years since 6 weeks. That's what
Get
that's
comfortable.
way different than just
Yeah,
your 6
so-
week stint. But the only thing would have been better is if it had been turning his no movement clause from the Toronto Maple Leafs. That would have been, then he's really getting it.
Oh, if he said no to the Leafs,
Yeah.
Well, on that note,
people would have been.
let's
pissed.
bring in our special guest here this week. Let's
Yeah,
bring
this-
in the Hockey Illuminati himself, the star of our year web series. There he is,
Forever.
repping forever and ever.
Always.
Frank Krupe.
Forever and ever. Fellas, it's a pleasure to be back. Love the pod. Commie, thanks for combing your hair for me today, by
Thank
the
you.
way.
Yep.
I did the same before I
There you
hopped
go.
on.
You look great.
Okay?
Yes, you look great.
Thanks.
You look great.
You guys all look great. Thank you. I appreciate it. And yes, Leafs forever. We're standing right in the middle of it. And I don't know if you guys have been to Scotiabank lately, but when you walk in, the shit is literally like up to your knees.
Oh.
And there's no one coming to clean it out anytime
I was
soon.
watching the
Doesn't
game
look
on
like.
Saturday night. There was literally no one in the golds. It was just
No.
gold
Oh.
seats everywhere on Saturday night. What a tough month.
Yeah.
Right.
If there's a plus, it's that tickets are cheaper. And for those sitting in the bleeders, come on because
down.
About halfway through the second period, it is empty down there. Let me tell you, I sat in about $15,000 worth of different seats in the third period on Saturday night. So there are some positives to this ship.
You know what this is like? The sort of feeling right now reminds me. I was a reporter covering the Leafs at a time. Remember when the waffles were starting to get tossed onto the ice, right? When Eric Cole, I remember Arm Dog was still there at the time, and I having to talk to Colby about that afterwards. But yeah, like the paper bags were coming back. Like Razor, I think that was a couple years after you.
Yeah, it was
your
08,
time.
09, somewhere in there. Yeah.
Right around
Ugly.
that period. But I mean, let me throw this at you, Frank. I guess Elliot Friedman talked about this a few days ago on Hockey Night in Canada, but it obviously wasn't going to be a trade deadline conversation. But this summer, like, what's Austin Matthews' future legitimately look like in Toronto, in your opinion?
Yeah. Well, what's interesting? You guys were talking about no trades a moment ago. If I had to pick one thing that destroyed this era of Leaf hockey, it would be no trades, no trade clauses.
Yeah.
Okay. And like Kyle Dubas gave David Kampf a limited no move clause. Like every single player on the Leafs, OEL, Riley, Nylander, and obviously Matthews, the list goes on. And I agree with what you said, Commie. Like there's only a handful of guys in the world that deserve full no moves. And the fact that Matthews and Nylander both have full no moves, Morgan Raz is a different story. But, the majority of people here in Leafland see the writing is on the wall, and that is that you're probably going to have to totally rebuild this thing and tear it down. And, Matthews and Nylander, it's been 8-9 years with them now in Toronto. We more or less know who they are at this point. And what makes this so difficult is we have all these fans and all the people in the Toronto media screaming to trade Matthews and, you got to move off this guy, but you can't trade Austin Matthews right now because his value has never been so low, right?
Right.
His value's never been so low.
And you have to trade him to the place that he's going to sign the extension.
Right, exactly. And not only that, but he's going to say, okay, here are the 4 teams that I'll go to. Okay.
So you get a first round pick for him. And that's it.
Right. And this is the same. We're going to lump Nylander in. Nylander's a little different because he just signed the 8-year extension, and it's very, very unlikely he will waive. He's not bothered by the shit blizzard in Toronto. But like what people don't understand is like, A, you're not ever winning a trade where you trade a star player, right? B, you lump in the fact that there's only going to be a handful of teams they'll want to deal with. You're going to get rinsed. And especially if Tree Living is doing it. So I know it's just if they moved off of one of these guys, the Leaf fans would probably sit there and say, really? This is the return? Not worth it.
Frank, I got a 2-part question for you. First off, since we're just talking about it, Matthews, what do you think those 4 teams are that he would pick to get moved to? And the second part of my question, from a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being sad, 10 being thrilled, where do you think Mitch Marner is on that scale on how the Leafs are doing this year? You feel free to answer in any order you'd like. Go ahead.
Oh, Mitchell, okay, we'll get to Mitchell in a second.
Okay.
Matthews, any of the three California teams, right? Anaheim, San Jose, LA.
Okay.
Okay. That's where he's bound for the West Coast, where it's just chill. I mean, I could see him finding a way into Vegas. That would be the leafiest thing ever. Him and Marner teamed back up
Dallas,
to Vegas,
Dallas,
Win a cup in Vegas. Those two together.
Vegas. Yeah, like that would be. I'm just thinking about like what the leafiest outcomes possible are, and because that's usually what happens. But yeah, somewhere on the West Coast where there's a lot of sun and no media. The one thing about Matthews as well, Sibo, you said, "Oh, should we move off him?" What are fans saying? We're not that far removed from him having 107 points in 82 games,
70 goals,
and 69 goals.
69 goals. Wasn't that just like 2 years ago?
Like it was less than right. It was happening two years ago, right? And it's like
unbelievable.
We do have amnesia here in Toronto because this is a very much like, what are you doing for me right now market? But man, like it wasn't that long ago. He was never at the same level as McDavid or McKinnon, but at one point he was like kind of close a little bit.
Hey, Frank, just from a West Coast standpoint, we're less than 2 years removed from Elias Pettersson hitting over 100 points too. So
yeah, there you go. Yeah,
a lot goes down in 2 years. I can tell you. Yeah.
Hell yeah.
I hear you.
Right. So I think let's see what happens with Matthews next season. He's not getting traded in the offseason. Neither is Nylander. If the Leafs are a shit show next year, which it probably will be, and Matthews is moving into the final year of his deal, then you sit down, you have a conversation with him, you say, okay, what are we doing here, man? You sign a long-term, you lost the movie. We can't have the Marner situation happen again. So possibly, I could see a scenario where he's traded at this point next year. I'm sure Marner, to answer your question, Commodore, is swimming laps. He's swimming laps in the Bellagio fountain right now.
Man, I agree with you. I agree with that answer. I'm going to Vegas in a couple of days. I'm going to find him and I'm going to ask him myself.
Yeah,
I'll be there Thursday to Saturday. I'm going to find him and be like, "Are you enjoying Vegas, Mitch?"
If you see him, put him in a headlock and give him a wet willy and say, "This is from the HockeyIlluminati." Okay?
All right, I will.
Is there by the way, for all of you guys, is there a GM who's had a tougher run in the last 3 to 5 years than? Man, I like him, but a tougher luck than Brad Treliving.
He's been put in some tough spots.
I will
say
it's
that.
been impossible.
Impossible. Tough scenarios, but man, like. Whether trying to move on from Marner last year and obviously getting the rejection on that, but obviously still the stink left over from the Flames and getting burned on, the late Johnny Gaudreau and then obviously Tkachuk. At least Tkachuk was transparent about it up front and allowed them to try to make the best of it. But man, like I don't know if there's a GM that has had a worse set of hands dealt to them. No. I don't know if it's all. I don't think it's all self-inflicted either. But I mean, there's some you can kind of like, man, you got to read the room properly or whatever. But however the case, it's just been.
Frank, last one for me. Who's coaching next year for the Toronto Maple Leafs? Does Berube survive this?
What's the alternative?
Yeah.
Babs?
I don't know. Try and.
He needs one more
all the
chance.
people that
One
asked
more
that.
chance. One more
Of
chance.
all the people that asked that, put that out in the universe.
Let's see if we can reconcile with Mike Babcock. It's all part of the process, right? All part of the process.
DeBoer?
Oh God, I don't know. Part of me doesn't know what to think of Berube because he is a good coach. Okay, he is a good coach. Like you don't win a Stanley Cup by a fluke. Yes, he had Binnington that was carrying him on this. That was a big part of that. But we loved Berube last year. Mm-hmm. He turned this team into division champs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. But he's had some questionable decisions this year. The way that he used Scott Laughton was piss poor. Okay, we acquired Scott Laughton and we utilized him as a fourth line center. There was a reason that we got Ugats for him at the deadline, because he wasn't showcased properly throughout the course of the year. Berube has also turned Matthews into Philip Deneau. Like he's like Matthews is all of a sudden he's a shutdown center. It's like, what happened? Why is our first line center a shutdown center now? So I really don't know, Razor. I have no idea, and I shy of getting Dale Hunter to break the contract he signed with Hockey Canada to coach. Like I don't know. I don't know what they do in terms of replacements. I haven't thought that much about it.
How we've got to this point there so fast.
Yeah.
Well, glad we could talk all this positivity for you here.
Great time to be on.
Stay positive, Frankie. You know what I mean? Stay positive. Don't get
Forever.
too down.
Forever.
That's right. That's
Never.
right.
Come on,
That's
listen.
right.
There he
Listen,
is.
I'm not leaving now. I've been here for 30 years. Are you going to leave now? No, we're not.
There
we're
he
not
is,
going
Leaf
anywhere.
fans. Number one in your heart. He is the Hockey Illuminati, Frank Krupe. You can find him on Instagram for all sorts of magic, and he keeps it real. So thanks, Frankie.
Thanks, Frankie.
Excellent. Thanks, fellas. Love you.
Much
you guys.
love to you
Let's
too.
go. Hey, top 5 pick. Top 5 pick, baby. Top 5 pick.
better
Let's
hope
go.
so.
Might be
or
a
it's
Canadian.
gone.
At this rate, it might be a Canadian sweep with the top 5 overall picks. Oh my
Yes,
God.
sir.
Calgary, Vancouver, Toronto. What a mess. There he is. Frank
What a
Krupe with
mess.
thoughts on where the Leafs are. It is honestly, I mean, since that, like what that loss to the Panthers did psychologically, like honestly, guys, like they haven't recovered. I mean, that seemed to have mentally crushed
It broke them.
that team. It broke them. Yeah. And that's where we are now. Okay. So lots going on. So let me throw this. I kind of flirted with this conversation earlier, but I mean, do we have to start looking at Buffalo as being a legitimate Stanley Cup contender now, Commie?
100%. I think yes. So, I mean, they've got some competition. Don't get me wrong, but and I know it was just one game a couple nights ago, but you know, and I think you're losing. Well, right off the bat, things are it's obviously a big game. They're at the top top of the East. And it's on right away. I think the fact that they were down, they come back, they're fighting for each other. I think they're all having fun. Buffalo's got to be going bananas. And so I think, God, like 3 months ago, I remember I like tweeting the good, honest, hardworking folk in Buffalo every once in a while just to take the temperature. I mean, it wasn't that long ago where the temperature was ice cold. And to see where it's come in a couple of months and people are fired up. And I'll tell you what, there aren't too many places on the East Coast. Nothing against any of the places. I'm sure they're all very fun. But I kind of like it out here out west, and I don't need to be traveling across the country. But I'll tell you what, I was actually looking at flights today. I might fly to Buffalo for a playoff game. I think it's worth
Chippewa action. It would
Oh,
absolutely be worth it.
Oh, it would be unbelievable. I won't take a ticket from a real fan. I understand I'm an outsider. And there's some people there that think I'm a scumbag still because of 2006. I get it, and that's fine. But like a bar stool on Chippewa with a good sight line on a TV, a hotel room within walking distance, and I'm good to go.
Refresh my memory. Did you do something greasy in that series in 2006 in the conference final?
No. Well,
okay.
Nothing greasy other than a couple of real slick goals that I scored. Woo, I scored a shorthanded goal on Ryan. I own Ryan Miller, by the way. I scored a shorthanded goal in game 5 that didn't end up meaning anything. It was 3-1, took it to 3-2. And then in game 7, I opened up the scoring. Doug Waite gave me a pass. And I put it right under the bar to open up the scoring, 1-0. By under the bar, I mean I shot it right along the ice. It hit one person's skate, then I think it hit Brian Campbell's skate and deflected in sideways into the net. Like
They don't ask how, Commie. They don't ask, especially in Game 7.
It was like Plinko in. I'm like, yeah.
Razor, you look at
it too.
Razor, you look at the goaltending right now. How Buffalo's goaltending matches up. I mean.
Yeah, that's why I don't like. That's why I don't
really,
like
it's funny because
I
think the analytics have kind of said the last couple of months. That,
No, they're playing good. I'm just
better,
worried about Alex Lyon against Andre Vasilevsky.
Yeah.
That doesn't make my heart feel good. It's
Sure.
similar to that's but again, you go Detroit, Carolina,
Montreal, Boston,
Pittsburgh.
yeah.
Boston and the Islanders. That's and the Tampa Bay right now. That's where the goaltending is. So I don't think it'll matter if Buffalo scores 8 times a game though. Like they're running and gunning like they used to in 06. Like that's what it looks like. So they're they're great. They look great right now, and it's just fun to have them back in the mix, I suppose.
The other one I wanted to throw at you, Ottawa now points in 11 of the last 12. They've won 9 of those. So, they picked up points in all those games except for one. Obviously, Jake Sanderson now week to week, but they're only 3 points back of Boston. Should the Bruins be nervous, or is this not sustainable there, Razor?
No, I think Ottawa's good. I've liked Ottawa all year. I think they're one of the better teams. I think if they get in, they're going to be really scary. I think that they have to go. The math gets hard to follow for them. That's the only issue. Like the Bruins go 11-8. You have to go 14-3, right? Like something like that. Like it gets hard if those teams stay 500. If Columbus stays 3 games over 500, it's hard to get in. But no, I like Ottawa. I've liked them all year. I love Greenies, my buddy. I like their makeup.
Commie, do you want to add something to Ottawa, or I got an Oilers question for you?
Yeah, I'll add some. Hey, look, regarding my Senators, I've seen this movie before. You know what I mean? Right when we forget about them,
the devil
they go on a heater and they back. And you know what it sounds like to me? It sounds like it's about time for some more off-ice drama in the capital city. Let's go on. Then they'll go on a little bit of a skid, and then they'll be teeing it up.
Oh, look at you.
Thinking of that, think of how bad we were. I just thought of this. Remember when we were picking how many teams were going to get into the playoffs in Canada?
Yep.
I think we all took 4 or 5.
Yeah.
Whew.
Not looking good.
And now we're looking at 2. Yeah. Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Oops.
Oops. Yeah. Maybe 3 if Ottawa goes on a heater or whatever. Yeah. I mean, it's wild. The Oilers were kind of underwhelming at the trade deadline. But I don't know. What do you think, Tom?
I mean, how much can they? I don't know.
They're kind of limited in terms of what they do financially.
Yeah. I mean, look, they're taking a shot with the goalie. They went through that. I don't think you could do that again a month later.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I mean, this is it.
They got better at the deadline. They got their D. They got a third line center. They those things are better. But it's goaltending until it's not. Until McDavid has the Stanley Cup and the Conn Smythe in his hands, it's goaltending.
Yeah. I'm still concerned with Razor. I know you're all about the Edmonton Oilers, and they love you up there. I'm still, and that's
so
great.
leaning into those guys.
100%. You love the Oilers, and I think that's great. I'm still a little concerned just with the overall amount of games of the last 3 years, but we shall see. Hey,
between Commie being early on the Buffalo train, sharing the story that he almost signed with the Sabres to curry favor in upstate New York, and Razor leaning hard into the Oilers the last couple of years, we're really showing we've got a lot of love here on the Clearing the Crease podcast. And speaking of love, we have our AskCTC. We want to hear from you, the fans, the listeners, the consumer. We want to hear from you. And this week's question, each and every week, we'll take a fan question. And this week we have one from Hockey, who wants to know, did you guys ever feel that there were referees that had it out for you?
The old guys they'd have the worst grudges of all time. Billy McCreary and those, they absolutely had played favorites with everybody. I loved it. I thought that was a big part of the game, is getting the referees on your side. I think nowadays, like everything else, it's more robotic, and you don't know who the referee is. They don't have their name on the back of it, their jerseys, but no question, the Kerry Fraziers and the Billy McCreary's and those guys had their favorites, and they had the guys that they hated.
Van Hellemans.
You could count on it. You could absolutely set your watch to a tripping call to Darcy Tucker in the first period on Saturday night from Billy McCreary. And he'd come back and, sorry, Razor, deal with it.
Yeah, I agree with Razor. I never thought, for me personally, I learned real fast in the American Hockey League to shut my mouth when it came to the referees. I wasn't a high-end player. All I did was take penalties, and I wasn't drawing anything. I learned real quick in the American League with Justin St. Pierre. And I want to go on record that I think being a referee is an incredibly hard job, and I love the refs. I actually really do. I have a couple buddies that are refs now. But I remember Justin St. Pierre in the American Hockey League. I was, I got a call for something, and this went, and I would lose my marbles, and he would, just penalty. And finally, I'm like, how stupid am I? Like, just
I'm not
shut
winning
up.
this.
No, I'm not winning it. So from one point forward, I just said, I'm not saying another word to him. I'm going to be nothing but nice. I'm just going to smile. If he gives me a penalty, I'm going to the box. And I want to say, like, a couple months later, I ran into Justin at the bar. I bought him a beer. I said, hi, Justin. I hope you're doing well. And I remember that moving into the NHL. Then he loved me. And I remember getting some breaks from Justin St. Pierre, actually.
The human element, Commie, come on.
Yeah,
That
like,
was awesome.
I remember getting some breaks, and I'd see him, and I'd wink at him. Hey, Justin, how you doing? Hey, Commie, how are you? Good, thanks.
Came from the same place, right? If you get the
yeah.
guys in the minors and you all make it, everyone knows where you were.
Exactly. The one ref that I have no idea if he had it in for the Calgary Flames, and you just said his name earlier, and I'd like to think no, but it's one that comes to mind, was Kerry Fraser and the Calgary Flames. And I actually looked it up because I knew this question was coming because it's our fan question. So, and I believe this is Kerry Fraser's last game coaching in Calgary. This was also my last game as a Calgary Flame. Game 4 of the Stanley Cup Finals. It is, I think Tampa was up 2-1. No, we were up 2-1. Sorry. We were up 2-1 going into game 4. This is a big game in Calgary. 1 minute and 52 seconds into the game. This is back with one ref. Kerry Fraser calls Chris Clark for cross-checking, and at the same time, Mike Commodore for holding.
Here's your 5-on-3, boy.
5-on-3. First off, maybe the computer has it backwards. I'm pretty sure I got the cross-checking because I cross-checked Freddie Modine, but whatever. It wasn't, this is 04. Like, I didn't cross-check him in the neck. It was on his hip. Anyways, me and Chris Clark go sit in the penalty box. At 2:48 of the first period, Brad Richards scores on the power play. Final score, 1-0 Tampa.
Oh, that's great stuff.
And I remember the fans were, now that was literally my last game. I remember going in, Jim Playfair. I played 2 minutes and 46 seconds. I thought it was my last shift as a Flame, but obviously I had one or two more mixed in there. Jim Playfair lost it on me. Now we've smoothed it
we've seen Jim Playfair lose it over the years. I think there's a great video of him.
Ripping his clothes off. Yeah, I mean, that was pretty funny. And I love Jim Playfair, and he is a fan of the show. He texts me about the show once in a while. Jim and I are buddies, but Jim, I'll tell you what, I've never been so mad. I remember he pulled me into Rich Hethskis, the strength coach's office. I played 2 minutes and 42 seconds and got called for a bullshit cross-checking penalty. I mean, I felt terrible, but I'm like, this is a joke. But I'm like, everybody feels bad, whatever. Yeah. We lost the game, but it's not the end of the world, but we did lose a pretty good opportunity. And Jimmy lit me up, just me and him. And I took it. I didn't say a word, and I took it. And I'm not going to repeat what he said and some of the things he said to, like, it wasn't like bad, but like comparing me to some players that, I don't think the world of. And I remember sitting in that chair and I was like this close. I want to grab this chair and smash it over Jimmy's head. I was so mad, but I didn't say anything. And I'm like, okay. And I just took it. And anyways, that ended up, like I said, Jimmy and I are friends now, but that was my last game as a Flame. And I'm pretty sure. Kerry Fraser, I don't think he went back to Calgary ever again. It was like borderline dangerous when he left the ice. People
I'm
were
sure.
pissed.
I'm sure.
They were throwing everything at him.
I mean, he's a public enemy in Toronto as well. And it's funny. Yep. I tell you, Commie, it was after your time in Carolina, but I covered a series between Boston and Carolina in, I want to say 2009, and Kay Whitmore was the NHL series supervisor for that. Now, Kay, prior to going into the front office of the NHL, Kay had worked for a little while as our hockey analyst at the Score television network way back in the early 2000s. So I got along with Kay, and so here I was covering the series, and Kay was traveling around, and so I would, Kay and I would meet up for beers afterwards. But because he was the officiating supervisor for the NHL, we go and hang out with all the refs during the series. And so I got to know Dave Jackson became a very good friend, who's now an analyst on ESPN. But there was Kelly Sutherland, there was Tim Peel, some great, Stephen Walkham, like so many of these guys, the personality, and man, they were so much fun to hang out with, like over
no doubt
2-week, 7-game series. Like, man, lots of great times and great evenings. But yeah, I mean, you're essentially playing the role of a beat cop on the ice with the game going fast. And yeah, I think there's a human element, right?
Not an easy job.
It's
There's
a
no
thankless
question.
job.
It's a hard, and
Yes.
That's a great way to put it. It's not easy and it's thankless.
Yeah,
for
but
sure.
but I think there was definitely, I think when you talk about the personalities, Razor, you kind of alluded to it off the top. Like, there is definitely some ego with a generation, like less so now, but definitely some ego and some personality, which, personality adds to the game, but at the cost of like calling something like a 5-on-3 2 minutes into Game 4 of a Stanley Cup final.
Man. What a buzzkill. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. What? Perfect way to segue into Don't Puck It Up. Razor, you want to go with this one first?
Yeah. If you're in the playoffs right now, don't puck it up, right? I just talked about the math a little bit in the Eastern Conference, like the Columbuses, the Ottawas. In the Western Conference as well, you've separated. You've got San Jose chasing right now as this week goes on. So everybody should be in place. Seattle, don't puck it up. Stay in the playoffs. You're right there. And then in the East, the same thing. Like, don't blow it right now. Don't waste 63 amazing games of hockey and shut it down after the Olympics. So figure it out after the deadline. If you're in the playoffs, stay in the playoffs. Pittsburgh Penguins, I'm looking at you.
I'll lean into the Penguins from my Don't Puck It Up, and specifically, it's more to Evgeny Malkin. You pucked it up. I mean, honest to God, like, what are you doing going headhunting on Rasmus Dahlin? And like, over the last quarter century, Evgeny Malkin is one of the greatest players the National Hockey League has seen. 3 Stanley Cups, future Hall of Famer, and just a grade A bozo this past week for doing something that reckless with his stick on Dahlin at a time that you got your wingman out for the next month, or who's been out for the last couple of weeks with Sidney Crosby. Like, you're looking for leadership. If there was ever a time to find some leadership and be the go-to guy right now, Gino, this is it. And instead, you pucked it up, getting yourself a suspension at a time that Razor just alluded to. You're hanging by a thread. Everything matters right now. You pucked it up, Gino.
Yeah, sometimes those Russian, isn't he from Magnitogorsk? I mean, they got some weird stuff in the water there. Yeah, I'll tell you what. I'm a little unprepared. I don't have one, but I make 2 up on the spot.
Okay.
It's what I just said. Buffalo, I'm singing your praises. Let's keep this going. Keep this train moving in the right direction. And to my Calgary Flames, Craig Conroy, we're moving things out. Let's put the young guys in. Maybe that Parayko kid, let's get him in the lineup. I'm not sure. That's a conversation for another day. I'm not sure what they're doing there, but we'll talk about that later. Let's not go on any heaters here. Let's just cruise our way right to the golf course, and let's get a top 3 pick, hopefully. Don't puck it up, Flames, Sabres.
You know what? Further to that, on the West in Western Canada here, Commie, could say the same thing for the Vancouver Canucks, that, it's been a dumpster fire of a season. yeah, no kidding. I think they're playing in the KHL right now, but they've been trying to make the best of a horrible situation and picking up 4 second-round picks over the last several weeks as they've tried to move out assets. How about this? The Canucks in 2026 have landed more second-round picks, 4 of them, than they have wins in 2026 as we record this on March 10th.
Wow. Okay. Well, hey, look, you can find some real gems in the second round, I heard.
Yes, you would know. You would know. There's a golden one right here. Yeah. Hey, just a reminder, everybody, be sure to like and subscribe on YouTube for more Clearing the Crease content powered by Ozune.net. You can follow along on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, on X, Instagram, TikTok. Hey, hopefully you're subscribed on YouTube as well, because the road to the Stanley Cup is wide open. And the clearest route to winning big is to play on Ozoon.net. Ozoon's got you covered for all props, game lines, futures from right now all the way until the Cup final and beyond. So make your power play and score big with Ozoon. It's your turn now. He's Commie. He's Razor. Our producer, Stu Stone. Hopefully Commie survives Vegas, and we'll see you next week right here on the Clearing the Crease podcast powered by Ozoon.